Hello, everyone. I'm Julianne Meyer. You are watching Own Your Wellness. Woo, for those of you who have been following along on my getting married adventures, I am pleased to announce that even though my wedding coordinator was fired from the venue and she was doing my flowers, I've got a new wedding coordinator who's better than the first one, like leaps and bounds. And I figured out the flower situation today. So, whew. But as my guest who's coming on today said, it wouldn't be a wedding if you didn't have a story to tell. and about her, I'm so excited because her name is Valerie Maksym, and she is a powerful, wonderful, kind-hearted soul, beautiful woman inside and out. And wait to be inspired because she is absolutely amazing. Let me bring her on to the show. Welcome. I've got itchy nose from my allergies. My cat is driving me bananas. I do apologize, but if you see me scratching, that's all it is. Nothing bad, nothing nefarious. Anyway, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm so excited to be on here tonight.
Me too. We talked a while ago, so I've been waiting for this conversation. I'm so happy you're here. I was so impressed by you and your story and just who you are. And I don't obviously know you very well, but you just struck a chord with me. I was like, yeah, woman power. I love this. So I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself and your own wellness journey.
Okay. So I've always enjoyed, working out and health and fitness. I was a gymnast back when I was younger. And so fitness was always a part of my life. But I would have to say my fitness journey really started after my second divorce at 44 years old, when I had been a stay-at-home mom my whole life. And the reality was setting in. Oh, you're going to have to go work, but wait, you don't have a resume, and I had to really get back to the things that I was good at, the things that I had passion for, the things that lit my soul on fire. And, that's always been in the gym, working out, even when I was a gymnast. So I decided to become a personal trainer. And so that is where my love and my stuff for my journey started. And on that journey, very quickly I had a friend who was competing in a NPC bodybuilding show. And so at 46 years old, I did my first bodybuilding competition.
Wow.
And that part of my journey, I will say, for me, competing was my therapy that, helped me to overcome so many things that we'll talk about on the show over the last 8 years. But I did it through fitness and through, transforming my body through health and the way I was eating.
I love that, and bodybuilding is that takes dedication. I would think I've never had the courage to try anything like that, but I can imagine that if I was struggling, that would give me a fabulous focus besides my struggles to really just sort of see how far I can push myself and what I'm capable of.
And for me, that was one thing, because in my life, I had control over nothing. I was like, oh my goodness, but I had control over me. And there was something empowering that I had control over. If I went to the gym and did my cardio, if I worked out, if I ate my food right, if I, did my plan, I had control over that. That was something that I could do.
Mm-hmm.
And then like each week you just see the results and you're like, wow, like I'm getting results. And then, then it rolls over other things in your life and other areas. Cause you're like, if I can do this here, I could do it over there, And so it's been a journey, but I love my wellness journey, and I will be on a wellness journey for the rest of my life. Like it will always be a part of my life.
You bring up a fabulous point, because a lot of people, especially if they're trying to lose weight, for example, they think once I get to this spot, this goal, then I'm done. It's like, no, honey. You don't go back to your McDonald's and your Burger King and your Chick-fil-A once you get to, your goal weight, and revert back to, your old ways of being.
I even, in my book, I have a goal setting section that I wrote, and I talk about that in my goal setting section. I said, how many times do you hit a goal in your life? And maybe 3 months, 6 months, a year later, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm right back at square one. What happened? And it's like, just because you hit your goal Now, if you want to maintain your goal, then I show you how to go back and rewrite your plan in a maintenance mode, right? So you don't wake up one day and be like, what happened? And it can be in relationships too. I know so many friends that have, even myself, you go to marriage counseling, you do all the things like, oh my goodness, things are working so good. And then you just kind of quit for a while. And it's, time goes by and then you're back at square one. You're like, it does. So anything worth having, worth keeping, it's gonna always be something you're gonna have to work at some level.
Yeah, it's ongoing. It's like brushing your teeth. If you want to keep your teeth, you got to keep brushing them, I always love using that example because there's this thing, I don't know what it is, but at bedtime, if I forget to brush my teeth, it is so hard for me to get up out of bed and go do it. It is like, you would think that I was just asked to run 5 miles or something. It's literally brush my teeth. I don't know what that is, but for me, it's a struggle. But anyway, you bring up a really good point about like goal setting and goal maintenance. Because, the thing also that I've noticed, and I'm curious what your thoughts about this is for myself and a lot of my clients, they'll reach their goal and it's kind of like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's always just out of your reach. It's like, okay, I got here, but I don't have it yet. It's like almost like an elusive, all right, okay, I did this, but now what?
Right. Exactly. Now what?
Yeah.
That's when you have to go back in and say, okay, what's my next goal from this? Okay, I got here. Do I want to go further with this? Do I want to maybe try to lose another 5 pounds, or do I want to tone up more? Do I put muscle on? Like or just want to maintain? And so you have to figure that out because that's going to become a new goal. And so then you're going to have to write the plan for that goal to follow that plan. So if you're wanting to continue moving forward or, happy with where you're at, because it's so easy to lose it once, when you let it go and you aren't doing something towards it. It's amazing how fast you can lose it and how hard it is and how many months it takes to get there. And it can all be wiped out so quickly.
Yeah, it's almost like muscle memory in reverse. It's like fat memory. Yeah. Oh man, but it's like that for anything. I think about building good business habits or, maybe reading a book instead of turning on the TV. It's kind of like you got to keep doing it. It's not something, I think a lot of us have this idea that it will be easier. Like when I first started working out, I had this stupid idea that it would get easier as I went along because I worked out with the trainer and I thought, oh, well, I'll get, it'll get easier. Without realizing that, of course, he's going to step up the game as I get better.
You never get to that point that it's easier. You keep thinking, okay, this should get easier. And it doesn't.
It's so funny to me how that works because it's like we have this idea that it's supposed to be easy at some point, but it's also boring, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, you don't want it to be easy. Again, that's what keeps, I said that earlier, but the things in life worth having, it does take work. It's not easy because to have the things that you really want in life, you have to get out of your comfort zone. They don't just happen easy. So when you're wanting the things in life that you're wanting to have, it's going to take getting out of that comfort zone, and it's not comfortable and it's not easy, but the rewards are worth it. So you have to look at the trade-off.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I have this interesting piece of my story where I used to live in Italy, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky you lived in Italy. And yeah, it was great that I lived there, but I also lived there. It's not like I was on vacation. It's like it becomes the same thing as living in California or Florida. Obviously it's a different country, but I lived there. And the thing is when I moved back to New York City, it took me years to figure out what it was that made me so happy about living in Italy. And I figured it out. It was that I was slightly uncomfortable almost all of the time.
Okay.
That made me happy. Didn't necessarily feel good in like I just ate chocolate kind of way, but it was there's something very rewarding about being at the edge of my comfort zone constantly. It was so happy. I felt alive. That's what it was. I felt really
Yeah.
alive,
Yeah.
and present.
Yeah. You will be, when you're out of your comfort zone, you will feel alive and present because you're kind of on edge, but not on edge. Like you're like, okay, I have to do this and it's uncomfortable, but I'm doing it anyway. And then you feel good that you did it. So it's kind of that, then you kind of get maybe a little addicted to that feeling like, well, I felt really good when I did that. So we're going to do it again. But yes.
Exactly. So I know that you have overcome a lot of different, things in your life, and a lot of people would take that time to curl up in a ball on the floor and really just sort of give up, but you didn't do that. Do you think that there's a certain quality that everybody has, or is it something that, they can cultivate so that they can emulate what you did when they're going through their own thing?
I think anybody can get out of any hard situation they're in. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy by any means, but because I've been through it and I've done it, and looking back on looking on paper financially in every way possible, you're like, this is impossible for you to have done what you did. And yet I did do what I did, getting myself, through that situation of a second divorce and having to figure out how to, pay rent. When you have people telling you they're trying to help you, like, oh, I have an office job over here, $15 an hour. And like, you calculate the whole month and you're like, that doesn't pay my rent. You know what I'm saying? So you have to get creative and get out of your comfort zone and, figure things out. But, you can always, I believe if there's a will, there's a way. I'm a big believer where you focus is where you go. So I do think that differentiates a lot of things, because I was always focusing on the rest of my life will be the best years of my life. The moment it didn't look like it, but that just happened to be my saying and it stuck with me. And I would just, I'd go to sleep dreaming big, like, okay, I'm going to have this marriage one day, this house, like just the things that were important to me. So I was just trying to, dream and think and not having any clue how I'm going to get there. But if I were to look at everything that I was sitting in and, the finances and not having them, and just everything that comes with being on your own for the first time, like I went from high school at 18 to married. So for the first time ever on my own. And, that's not easy, because my goal was in 6 months to be married. And, I was like, okay, I need to like find somebody quick and move on with this. And I'm glad I didn't do that. I mean, that's what I wanted, because I was scared and I was operating out of fear. And I had a counselor that brought me back in, and he's like, I really worry for you, because you really need to know yourself. You're going to keep repeating patterns. You're going to keep repeating things unless you take the time out to heal. Like you need to know who you are. And I didn't know who I was on any level, even when I found a life coach and I thought I wanted to work with her, and she sent me over a questionnaire, and I literally sat there and cried because I couldn't answer one question. Not one question could I answer. That's like how broken I was. And so, so it was definitely like I had a long way to go to pull out of that, but it is possible. It's one day at a time. There were moments that I would wear rubber bands around my wrist because it reminded me, I'd pop it every time I thought about the past, because when I would think about the past, I would get depressed. And then every time I thought about the future, I was so much anxiety, like, oh my goodness, like I'm almost 50. I don't even have a savings account, much less a job. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like I was like, what am I going to, so I would have to stay in the moment, because in life, we can only change our future by what we're doing in this very present moment that we're in at this very moment. And I had to really, really realize that it's in my doing, it's in my actions, it's in my words, it's in my speaking the positivity and doing the things that I could do in that moment, whatever it was. And, and when you're super broken, that's sometimes it's just very small, tiny, itty bitty baby steps that you're taking, but it's better than, nothing. It's better than just sitting still and hard on yourself. But yeah, definitely it was a journey, and I've learned so many things over the journey that it's, I'm still learning things. And when I start speaking places, like, new things keep coming up, and I'm like, oh, okay, that was this and that was that. But, I was thinking about my wellness journey. So I just want to share this real quick, because I was thinking about that, and I'm getting ready to possibly go and prep and compete again in September.
Wow.
And it's always hard to get started on a prep. I don't care who you are. You know, when you're like, okay, you got to cut the carbs and you got to do the hour and a half of cardio and like all the things that are into doing a prep, it's, you know, it's really, really hard. And I went back to thinking, okay, so the main thing that when I go to places and I really teach is that every relationship that you have is the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation for every relationship you have in life. And so I like to tell people, you know, if you're building your house, you want that foundation to be strong, because yeah, you could have some cracks in it and your house might last for a while, but in time it's going to start crumbling. It's going to start, start cracking, and you're going to start seeing things. And, you know, you might not have a relationship with yourself, and you might have friendships here and boyfriends there, or, you know, people you're whatever, maybe married, and you look around and your relationships always fail. They're always falling. Like, you know, they're not ever steady. And so I've really realized on my journey that my relationship with myself is the most important thing, and it's not selfish. And so when I was thinking about this the other day, I'm like, okay, so every relationship that I have is an extension of the relationship I first had with myself. What's my relationship with my health and fitness, in my eating habits, in my, you know, and I even took it further. We want to talk about this today, but even my money, like everything in our life, we have a relationship with, whether we want to ignore it and we're playing that avoidant, or we just want to overlook it and we just don't want to talk about it. I mean, it's still there. And so I've been more into this week. Okay, Valerie, what is your relationship, you know, with your health and fitness, with your, you know, the way that you're eating, you know, at my age. And I'm trying to, even when I'm not competing, I'm trying to really be on a healthy eating plan, because as we get older, number one, it's harder to lose weight. It's easier to put it on. And, you know, I want to stay healthy, and I want to, you know, live my best life that I can live, you know, for the rest of my life. I don't ever want to cave and give in to say, you know, oh, well, you know, my hormones and I'm this age and it's just what happens. And you just put this weight on and just have that, because it's like, no, who told you that? Like, I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. Right.
Yes.
So I'm been really thinking on that. Okay, what is your relationship with this whole wellness, eating, your gym time? Like, you know, what's the right plan for you at your age? I mean, there's just so many different things, you know. I don't want to be beating my body in the ground, but still getting results.
Exactly. You know, you bring up so many amazing points, but the one I really want to highlight is the idea of taking full responsibility for yourself instead of blaming things like hormones and making excuses. I'm not saying that those things aren't real. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be your reality.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of people give into that story.
I was giving into it at certain points. So, I mean, I'm saying that from firsthand for me, because you know, then it's okay. Well, then, you know, you can go places to get help with your hormones. You can go places. There's always ways to educate yourself and to, you know, continue on a journey of living your best life.
Exactly. I love that. On that note, we do need to go to a commercial break. So we're going to be back in just a minute. And for those of you who are watching us live, thank you so much for being here. When we come back, we're going to talk a lot more about self-care and how to walk through these difficult times, because you know, there's a lot of people who are struggling right now, especially financially. So we'll be back in just a minute.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, I'm Julianne Meyer. You are watching Own Your Wellness, and today's amazing guest is Valerie Maksym. Welcome back to the show. As I wiggle around in my supposedly comfortable chair. Anyway, you have mentioned a little bit about like personal training and, mindset. And I happen to know that you do help people in a few different capacities. So I would love for you to share a little bit about that because, I'm sure somebody out there needs some help from you.
Yes, I actually have helped in so many different topics, from career transitioning to relationships to people in blended families that have had, trying to figure that out. Just people trying to build confidence in personal development. That's a big one because a lot of people I talk to are just, I don't have the confidence. Like I go my workplace, I'm not advancing like I should because the confidence isn't there. So, and then I also do help. I'm a personal trainer, but I do a lot of coaching on the mindset of losing weight because a lot of it is mindset. Once that mindset gets right, then they get in the gym and it all lines up together. And, it's having that belief in yourself that you can do it, that you can achieve your goals and that you are worthy and you're valuable and you're not any different than the next person that has actually accomplished it. You just have to get out there and put some work in.
Exactly. And I think what you do too is help demystify those things because most people know technically what they're supposed to do, within reason. I mean, there's a zillion different methods out there. But to actually do it, it's a whole nother level. So
that accountability also, I know for myself, I love whenever I can have a personal trainer in the gym to help me. And every now and then I'll just pay for a personal trainer, like for the day, like for a session. Cause I like that, I like when I can have life coaching. I'm a life coach, but we all get in places of life that we're just kind of stuck. We're just kind of stagnant and we need, a coach to help coach us and get us back up and get us back on our game plan and to move forward. And one client I was talking to the other day, he's 50s and, just said, I've come to a place in my life that I've just accepted this is how life is. And I had to kind of think about that. And I'm like, I've heard that several times. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. I start talking and I'm like, I was just trying to say, you're stuck. You're stuck in that mentality because when you get out and do new things and you start exploring and you expand your, you just start expanding your mindset, whether it's culture or trying a new hobby or, doing new things and getting yourself out of that rut and getting yourself, to see the possibilities of new things. Because to get to a place that you're just stagnant, that means number one, you've been in your comfort zone way too long and you just got comfortable and you just caved and said, okay, this is as good as it gets. And I mean, it's not a terrible life, so I accept it. And I love helping people like that because they don't even realize it until we start talking, like their light bulbs go off and they can't even believe they just said that to me. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, why didn't I pick up on that? I think we just subtly, in all of us, including myself, I mean, we all, can just kind of get in a place of life at times. And it's like, okay, this is what it is. And that's whenever I always know, okay, Valerie, you got to get out of your comfort zone and start doing new things, to go to new places and have new energy and, the newness of it, to not ever get stuck. Like, when I say maximizing life, to me, that's number one, it's all areas of life from, emotional, mental, physical, health, relationships, but living level to level without getting stuck. Because in life, we do get to be out of our comfort zone for a little bit at certain times. Cause you put so much in, you're out of your comfort zone, out of it. And then you're like, okay, I get a little break. But that break never lasts very long, because you'll start feeling, I've learned how to feel, like how I start feeling stagnant, and I kind of start feeling bored, and I kind of feel like things start slowing down. And so I know, okay, now it's time to get back out there and to push myself to that next level. But just always realizing there's always more. There's always more to do, always more to learn, always more to put into your life. Your life is not over till you take your last breath. So like, do not give up.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who don't live while they're alive. And, I've been guilty of that myself. So I'm not trying to,
Yeah.
say anything negative about anybody, but it's just fascinating how it can be. It just becomes monotonous for me. I'm like, okay, I've either got to grow or this has got to go, because I can't stay in this exact spot anymore. I don't want to be the person. And this was totally acceptable, a zillion years ago, or not even that long. But, getting your 30-year watch because you stayed at the same company forever. I mean, if you love that,
Right.
by all means, fabulous. But I don't know a lot of people that do.
Times are changing with that, because I'm talking to people and they're getting cut in different things. So I don't know that, so much you have to change with the times. I feel like that's a little, I don't think that's as normal as it used to be.
Exactly. I don't think so either. And I even heard somewhere that, staying in the same job for more than 5 to 7 years is considered a negative in a lot of people's eyes that are hiring. And I thought, wow, that's fascinating.
They want them to have more experience or more growth, like,
I guess from different places. I'm not sure. But I know that you wrote a book. I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
I did write a book. Like you said, some people don't live in their life, right? They're not living. And that was me for 44 years. I don't know how I just floated through life, but looking back, you can always connect the dots looking backwards on life, and you wish you could kind of look going forward. But so looking back, I realized when I went on this journey that my turning point was when at 12 years old, my dad passed away. And I was with him. I was up in the night with him, taking care of him. And I got him to the bathroom, and he fell and he died in front of my eyes. And I ran to my bedroom. My mom ran in there, and she never knew I saw that. The next day, we never spoke about it. We just moved on as life went on. And actually, he passed away June 1st. So it's 39 years ago today.
Wow.
And so by doing that, I didn't heal from my trauma. We didn't talk about it. And I'm in 6th grade, and I start having panic attacks, like really bad ones. Like I feel like I'm out of my body. Like I can touch, my heart's racing, and it would scare me, but I didn't tell anybody. I just thought, okay, I'm going to die next. My dad died. I'm dying next. Like, I don't know what to say. And they were so scary that I didn't want to have friends, because I didn't want somebody to see that happening, when I'm around them. So I really became labeled as shy and quiet from 6th grade to 12th grade, all the way through school, because they happened all the time, and we never addressed it. So the first boy that I met right out of high school, he wasn't really at that time. Like he wasn't doing good. He was already in jail maybe 3 or 4 times already. And he lived down the street, and he liked me. So like, first guy that likes me, I date him, I get pregnant, 3 kids in 3.5 years. And it was a very toxic relationship and very controlling. I didn't have friends. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a job. I stayed at home with 3 kids daily. That was what I did. I loved my kids. So for me, at the time, I didn't look at it as a bad thing, because I was one of those moms who I never complained that I had 3 kids in that amount of time. I was just so happy to have my kids and take care of them. And so I did divorce that relationship. I finally did, because unfortunately he did try to kill me. And I knew if I didn't leave, he would the next time probably succeed. So 6 months later, I'm married again. And so you see this pattern. I never healed. I never took the time to heal from my trauma of my dad. And then I got in that relationship with that marriage, and I didn't heal all the trauma I went through with that. And there was a lot of it. He was on drugs. There was just a lot of a trauma that I held in. So then I got married again. And then, there were things in that marriage that were just different. And in that, I stayed in that relationship because I got pregnant again. So I was in that relationship for maybe 11 years, I think 12 years, something like that. So when I found myself at 44 years old, divorced and looking back on, okay, like, how did I get here? Like, how did I, but I didn't heal. And so I didn't heal from my dad's death till I was 50 years old. So
Wow.
48 years of holding in all of that emotional trauma. And so when I say this, I wasn't living my authentic self. Like, so
Mhm.
you have to figure, so my dad passed away. We don't talk about it. I'm trying to understand all these feelings and everything that's happening. I'm not showing up my authentic self. I don't even know how to do that. I didn't heal. I didn't process. I get into a relationship because somebody likes me, not because necessarily it's the right thing. And so when you wake up and you're like, wow, I have lived, and I had walls up, like walls above walls. I mean, the walls were so high because of being vulnerable and getting hurt. I'm like, I'm not doing that again. So the wall would go up. Being vulnerable and getting hurt. Okay, I'm not doing that. The wall would go up. And, before I knew it, I had so many walls up. So I was just like, in this place of survival mode for 44 years.
Mhm.
And I realized I never showed up a day in my life, my authentic self, because I didn't know who that was. I didn't know how to even find that. I didn't even know if that was possible for me to ever figure that out. And, in my book, I talk about the 4 stages that I went from literally surviving daily, like panic attacks. I would just look at the clock to see when it was time to go to bed at night. Like I just needed to get through the days.
Wow.
And you wake up at 44 years old and you're like, wow, I know, I don't know how, but I know I can't live like this anymore. I don't know. I didn't know the first step. I didn't know, so in the first book that I wrote, The Maximizing Life, it's written I tell people it's like milk, like there's like the milk and the steak of things when you're like reading things. It's very basic, because when I was that broken, if somebody were to hand me a book, I'd be like, yeah, my brain can't, comprehend all that. So each chapter is kind of individually written on topics that I had to work through to heal, and to go from surviving to thriving, into going to have zero self-doubt to having full confidence and that's the stages of it. And then once I got there, I wrote my goal setting formula, because I was like, okay, now I'm like ready to start setting some goals, but how does that work? And my kids shared in the book a little bit. And then I give a 30-day challenge at the end just to kind of see, if you put some of these things to practice, to see what becomes in your life. Like what kind of an outcome do you have when you follow this challenge for 30 days?
I like that, and then you can be like your own experiment too. You don't have to take somebody's word for it forever. Anybody can commit to a 30-day challenge. I mean, it's not it's not that hard. I mean,
yeah. And a
no,
lot of go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say a lot of it is just around the mindset, because it's really keeping yourself in a positive environment for 30 days. And, like I say, no violence on TV for 30 days, no music that's negative for 30 days, no video games for 30. I'm not saying you can't do it forever. I'm just saying in the thing, there's a whole bunch of things that I give, but just trying to get your mind set in a positive growth, like thinking ground. So that way you can have time to think and be positive and make some changes if that's what you're wanting to make in your life. And then, if you do the challenge and you don't see anything, then, but if you do, then you're more aware of what negativity can do to us. Because I didn't realize, all the people that I used to hang out with and be around, and all the negative talk and the gossip and then this and that, how much it weighed me down, because I didn't understand that until I removed myself. And now I'm like, wow, I don't have place for that in my life, on places that I'm going and wanting to get to, that, I see that just pulled me back. That did nothing but weigh me down, pulled me back from getting my goal set. And it didn't bring any good to my life.
I love that you do that, because people, like you said, they don't even realize. I did like a news fast. And I already don't normally pay attention to the news, but I got into the habit of checking my phone for the latest news. And it really, even my mood and everything started going downhill. But as soon as I stopped doing that and got out of the habit of doing that, my life went back up again instantly. It was so cool to see. So for those that are watching, it does work. It's really fun to see. It's like, how could something that seems so insignificant be so significant to your overall wellness? But it really is.
Exactly. Our mind's a computer system. So it doesn't understand that negative energy of killing on TV and violence or it doesn't understand. It doesn't say, oh, this is just a game or this is just, and so it gets, I think, filtered in. And over time of doing it day after day after day, it can have an impact. So I have seen, so many people that I know, they're like, yeah, I mean, I just started thinking different and I pulled out a book and I did some different things that I'm not used to doing. And I kind of got on a pattern of doing some self-help things and, investing in myself. And again, that's the whole foundation of that relationship you have with yourself, like investing in yourself, getting to know yourself. Like you should know yourself better than you know anybody else. And I know I didn't. At 44 years old, I didn't know anything about myself. And that I look at that and think, man, I went 44 years and did not even think once of the thought that I should know who I am or have a relationship with myself.
I think you're not alone. I wanted to become a deputy sheriff and, I was so bound and determined to do this. So I did all the things and it didn't work out, fortunately. And here's the thing, the reason why I chose it is because I knew I would be good at it and I would make enough money that I'd be happy with, how I could live. And that's why I chose it. And not once did I ask myself, is this what I want to do? Is this how I want to spend my life? But anyway, it didn't end up working out. But one of the things that I had to do after that was because I was thinking that I would just become a cop in Irvine, California. And I needed to have some more continuing education. So I don't know what I needed, but I needed some sort of credit. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to go back to school, then what do I want to study? And I literally had no idea. You know how I figured it out? I looked at my books and I realized, I must really like nutrition because there are probably 50 books on wellness in here. And that's how I started to realize, oh my gosh, how could I not know that?
Right. Yeah.
It's, it's unfortunate that it took trauma for you to come to that realization. And for me, it was just stupidity. But we got there. Let's celebrate the win.
That's the main point of it. Yeah. It's you got there, you arrived.
We got there. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, on that note, we do need to go to one more commercial break. So we're going to be back in just a minute. And I said hello to everybody that's watching us live. Now it's my turn to say hello to everybody who's watching us on demand. We're so glad you're here. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation about knowing yourself, about setting goals, about how to actually live your life instead of just surviving it. We'll be right back in just a minute.
Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's bring our guest Valerie back to the show. Welcome back. So before we get started, I may have to, nope, it looks like we're going to be good, but I let my cat in. He's unfortunately very sick right now. And so I want him to have whatever he wants. We're talking tuna, all the lovin's, everything. So he wanted in here, so I let him in. But it looks like he's going to chill. So anyway, let's get back to the show. So, you were kind enough to share a little bit about your story and your trauma. Oh my goodness. It's like, there's something that, you and I have in common. It's like this idea of just pushing forward, and like not really addressing, or I don't do that anymore myself either, but right. I did that for a really long time. It was like, I never mourned the death of, certain people. And I realized it was piling up too. And it felt, it was interesting. So I'm curious, as you are, how did you, actually, let me start over. How did you, once you started this healing process, learn who you were? Because, for me, when I started to figure out who I was like, I don't even know what I like to wear. So what's my style? That was so second nature to me at one point, but I'd lost that. So I'm curious, how did you start to learn to know who you were?
I just started in different situations when situations come. So I just recently moved because I am now an empty nester. And so I moved to a 2-bedroom apartment that's on a waterway, and I just walk down the waterway and there's restaurants, and I love where I live. And for the very first time ever, I decorated my own apartment, like when I've never been one to just get to decorate all my stuff. And looking back, I don't know why. Like, I was just with men who like to do that, and they just did it. And I just didn't really, I might have a say in something here or there, but they just, did it. And so just little things like that. And I had to really start thinking, well, what would I like? Like, what would make me happy? And piece by piece in my apartment, I keep putting, like, I have this really it's not bedazzled, but it's really nice mirror on one wall. And then I have a white fluffy rug in my living room, and these pillows and different things. And I'm finding little pieces here and there that make me feel like a queen, that make me feel like this is my castle. This is, figuring out the things that I like. And it's trial and error. I bought a rug, the first rug that was red. I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. It's very bold. And I got it home and I'm like, yeah, no, I take it back, but I think it's just being honest with yourself, because in not caving and saying, oh, well, I don't want to take it back because I don't want to deal with that. So I'm just going to keep it. That would be the old me. It's okay. It's okay. It's not terrible. No, it doesn't make you, if it's not you matter. Your opinions of things in life should matter. And so I think like I said, it's a daily thing. So you have different circumstances that things come up, and you have to stand up for yourself. Even if you take a deep breath and think about it for a second and say, okay, they just asked me a question. I don't know how to answer that, but give me a second, and really listen to your gut to say, this is what I like. Because it is hard in the beginning when you're not used to having a voice or what you like or what restaurant you want to go to. And I just recently started going on some dates, and I made him, I said, okay, you're going to pick the restaurant. Like, I'm already trying to get out of my masculine energy that I have lived in my entire life. I lived in broken masculine energy, which is worse than just masculine energy. So I'm really working to have my feminine energy, be the queen of my castle, know my worth, know my value. My entire life, I just picked boys. Like, I didn't pick my king. because I wasn't a queen. I wasn't in that place that I needed to be in. So again, it's just learning yourself what's right for you. And when you start doing that, for myself, I just started becoming a little happier here and there, a little more like having a little more self-confidence, a little more like, oh, okay, my voice does matter. And then people come to my apartment, they're like, your apartment is so you. Like, oh my goodness, this is like you. And so I'm like, really? Like, so people are seeing my change. They're seeing my taste change, the things that I like change, because I'm really trying to get congruent and authentic to who I am. So I feel like it's going to be a journey, though, maybe for the rest of my life, is what I'm kind of seeing, of knowing what your authentic self is. Because I mean, things can change. You can, taste change, things can change. So it's not written in stone, but I think it's just being authentic in the moments that you're in every day to whatever your circumstances are. And that's really how I try to live, giving myself permission to make decisions, and being honest, being completely honest with myself, because my kids know too, when I'm not perfect, because there are times I don't, like, Mom, seriously, that's not what you want. And I'm like, okay, you're right. It's not, and again, it's a journey.
I like this idea, the thing that you use the example of the rug, because I can't even tell you how many times I'm like, yeah, it's okay enough. The enemy of great is good.
Right. Yes.
Why are we settling all the time? Why do we do that? It takes a little extra effort. Okay, it's almost there, but it's not that. So, if we just put in a little extra effort, then we can really have what we really want. So,
and you can imagine, like you're saying, like how it piles up when we just settle for good. You just settle for good, you settle for good, you settle for good. And you never get to that point that things are great, because you just thought it was a little thing, like, oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. But that really, it does over time add up.
It does, yeah, it's like almost like when you pile up your grief, but you're just piling up the okayness instead. It's, and how you do some things is how you do all things. So it's kind of like, why are you settling for anything? I mean, life should be fabulous. I mean, not every experience is great, but
right.
It should be fabulous.
And on that note, I'll say, I'm going to take it back again, because you're going to know me for the woman that says the relationship you have with yourself is the most important relationship you can have. Because on my journey, what I have found, the stronger my relationship with myself is, when disappointments or traumatic things in my life come, or a friend leaves, or someone I like that I want to date leaves, or something, because we all have things that come. It doesn't pull me down for 6 weeks, 6 months. I'm like a day or two, and I'm back on my game, because I know my worth. I know my value. I know what I bring to the table, and it's easy to keep going. So when you're saying our life should be exciting, it doesn't mean that bad things don't happen, things don't come our way. But I feel like when you really have that solid foundation, and you're really, really good in your own skin, that it's so much easier that you don't just fall apart devastated if someone breaks up with you, like I did in my past. And I would put my whole identity in that person breaking up with me, that I'm no good and I'll never find it. But it just, all the negative. And literally the last person that I broke up with has taken me over 3 years to go on another date. That should not be the case. That's how much I fell apart. That's how much I felt rejected, and I wasn't enough, and I wasn't pretty enough, and I wasn't this, and I wasn't that, because if I was, then he would have left me. But I had no self-love, right? So now that I have this self-love, I see that through a different lens. I see that as everybody in life is given a choice. I wasn't rejected. I just took it like that. He had a choice to move on to somebody else, as he should. As if I decided to break up with someone, had a choice. I wouldn't want someone waiting 3 years, feeling like I rejected them, looking at it on both angles. And so the more that I have this self-love, and the more that it keeps growing and growing daily, it's like when things do come my way, or things do come sideways, or you get a negative email, or someone wants to say nasty things to you, it's like, I don't take that in. I don't receive it, because I know my worth. I know my value. I know my intentions. I know who I am so much that I don't let that knock me off my game. So I do really think that when you're saying everybody should be just living the most exciting, joyous, happy life possible. And I don't know how you can do that if you don't have a good foundation of knowing who you are.
Exactly. And loving yourself for who you are. Like we make ourselves wrong for all these things that we think are wrong with us. Whereas, what if they were actually not bad? What if we accepted it for what it is and just worked with it, or changed, because maybe a behavior doesn't work for us. I love that. I love that idea too. And something else that I want to point out that you mentioned is like this idea of honoring your feelings, but not camping out in that negativity indefinitely.
Right. I give myself a time frame now, depending on the circumstance. Okay, I give myself 48 hours to gripe about this. I'll tell my kids, I might gripe, I might be saying stuff, because you can't hold emotion in. And I was listening to a podcast on this the other day, like when you eat food, it has to come out. When we hold emotions in, what happens is it stores places in our body when we don't address it. And so over years and years and years of not addressing our traumas and our hurts and our pains, it's like we're just filling our body up with this unresolved trauma and energy that has to go somewhere because we're not letting it out. And, you have to release it. So I'm not a believer in putting your head under the rug. Something happens. Oh, life's so great. My life is so wonderful. We're not even going to. No, I do address. You have to address when things come, and you do have to work through it, and you do have to allow that energy and those emotions to pass through.
No, absolutely. We are almost out of time. Can you believe it? We got about a minute or so left. And I'm just curious if there's anything that you would love to share with the audience that maybe you haven't, or maybe reiterate a point that you'd like to make.
I just, if anybody, wants to reach out, I do offer coaching, and I have a program called Who Am I? And I also individualize every one of my programs for my people. It's not a cookie cutter program. So it is definitely, the foundation work is laid. Every single person I coach is on a very, very intimate level for where you're at. And I love that I've had some great, some clients with some great success because I've been able to do that. And my heart is just to help women. I have a big, big heart to help women to know their worth, know their value, and not compare. You have gifts and talents that are placed in you that if you could find those and let them come out, you're going to find your happiness and your joy. And when that comes from within, that's when I feel like the beauty comes, because it comes from the heart.
I love that. We're going to end on that. I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show today, Valerie. You have been an absolute pleasure, and I appreciate you being vulnerable enough to share some of your story with us. It's not always easy to do, so thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
And everyone, that is all the time that we have for today. We will see you again very soon. Enjoy your week in the meantime.